Chapter 1. The Market as a City of Invisible Warehouses. Every market looks clean from a distance. A price appears on a screen, a button says buy, another button says sell, and the modern investor feels as if the world has become weightless. But behind every price there is an old and physical idea. Someone must be willing to hold what another person wants to abandon. Someone must stand between desire and fear. Someone must carry inventory. Inventory-based strategies begin with that simple burden. They are not born from a prophecy about where the market will go tomorrow. They are born from the question of what to do when the market hands you too much of one thing. A market maker buys when others sell, sells when others buy, and adjusts prices like a shopkeeper adjusting candles in a storm. The inventory is not only stock, bonds, futures, or currency. It is exposure, obligation, and danger. Imagine a street merchant in an ancient port city. He has too many spices after a ship arrives from the east, so he lowers the price to invite buyers. Later, when his shelves are nearly empty and demand grows, he raises the price not out of greed alone, but because scarcity has changed the balance of the room. The modern market maker does the same thing, only the shelves are electronic, the spices are securities, and the weather changes in milliseconds. This is why inventory-based trading feels almost medieval and futuristic at the same time. It belongs to the tavern, the bazaar, the coffee house, the exchange floor, and the server rack. The strategy asks a poetic but ruthless question. How much risk can one body, one firm, or one algorithm safely hold before the market turns that inventory into a curse? Chapter 2. Before the screen, there was the merchant. Long before stocks had tickers, markets already had inventory problems. Grain merchants in Mesopotamia, silk dealers in China, spice traders in Venice, and tulip traders in Amsterdam all understood one law. The goods you hold can make you rich, but they can also imprison you. A warehouse full of the wrong thing at the wrong time is not wealth. It is frozen danger. The merchant's art was never only buying cheap and selling expensive. It was surviving the space between purchase and sale. A ship could sink, a war could close a route, a king could change taxes, or a fashion could disappear overnight. Inventory was a promise made against the future, and the future was never polite enough to keep still. Financial markets inherited this ancient anxiety. Shares, bonds, and derivatives may look more abstract than barrels of wine or sacks of grain, but they carry the same emotional pressure. If a dealer buys too much of a stock, he is no longer a neutral bridge between buyers and sellers. He becomes a temporary owner of the storm. This is the emotional foundation of inventory-based strategies. The trader is not only looking for profit, he is trying to keep his position from becoming a beast. Every quote is a negotiation with the market and with his own balance sheet. The best inventory strategy is not the one that always predicts the next price, but the one that knows when the inventory itself has started to speak. Chapter 3. The Buttonwood Tree and the Birth of Order. In 1792, New York was still a young financial city, raw, nervous, and full of ambition. 24 brokers signed the Buttonwood Agreement, the document that became the seed of the New York Stock Exchange. The famous image is almost mythological. Men gathering near a buttonwood tree on Wall Street, trying to bring order after panic and speculation had damaged public confidence. It was not only a business agreement, it was a ritual of trust. The early market needed rules because trust was scarce. Brokers wanted to know who was allowed into the circle, who could trade with whom, and what commissions would be charged. Behind this desire for order was a deeper fear. If markets were only chaos, prices could not be trusted, and inventory could become poison in the hands of anyone forced to hold it. In that early world, the dealer was part merchant, part judge, part gambler, and part priest. He had to know not only what was traded, but who was standing across from him. A buyer with money today could be insolvent tomorrow. A seller in a panic might be giving away value, or might be running from information that had not yet reached the room. Inventory-based strategy was not yet written in mathematical language, but its soul was already present. The dealer who ended the day too long or too short carried the night home with him. The books closed, the lamps dimmed, but the position remained. The market slept badly inside his pocket. Chapter 4. The Bid-Ask Spread, a Toll at the Bridge. The bid-ask spread is one of the most important small gaps in capitalism. The bid is what someone is willing to pay. The ask is what someone demands to sell. Between them lies the spread, a narrow bridge where the market maker tries to earn compensation for providing immediacy. Harold Demsetz helped give this bridge serious academic dignity in 1968 when he examined transaction costs and the ask-bid spread on the New York Stock Exchange. His insight was elegant. Immediacy is not free. If you want to trade now, rather than wait for the perfect counterparty, someone must absorb the inconvenience and risk. The spread is the price of that service. In romantic language, the spread is the candle fee charged by the keeper of the market's doorway. It is small when the night is calm, when buyers and sellers arrive evenly, and when the asset behaves like a civilized guest. It widens when fear enters, when information becomes uneven, or when the dealer's inventory starts to lean dangerously to one side. A narrow spread says the bridge is safe. A wide spread says the river below is rising. Inventory-based strategies live inside this spread. If a market maker has too much inventory, he may shade his quotes to encourage trades that reduce the position. If he owns too many shares, he may lower his ask to attract buyers and lower his bid to avoid buying more. The spread becomes not only a source of profit, but a steering wheel. Chapter 5. The Specialist, the Human Clockwork of the NYSE. For much of the 20th century, the New York Stock Exchange had a figure who seemed designed for financial mythology. The Specialist. A specialist stood at a trading post and managed the market for particular stocks. He kept order books, matched buyers and sellers, opened trading, calmed imbalances, and sometimes traded from his own inventory to keep the market orderly. He was not merely a trader. He was a local sovereign of a small kingdom. The specialist's job carried a strange contradiction. He had obligations to public order, but also private exposure to risk. If sellers overwhelmed buyers, he might buy to support liquidity. If buyers overwhelmed sellers, he might sell from inventory. The exchange needed him to be steady when others were emotional, yet every act of steadiness could load more risk onto his own book. There is something almost theatrical in this role. The crowd shouts, orders arrive, paper moves, prices flicker, and one person stands at the center trying to prevent disorder from becoming panic. The specialist must listen to the market's breath. He must know when to absorb pressure and when to step back before the pressure breaks him. Inventory-based strategies were the silent grammar of this world. A specialist with too much stock did not announce his anxiety like a tragic actor. He adjusted quotes, leaned the book, and waited for order flow to rescue him. His inventory was a private diary written in shares, and every price was an attempt to edit the next page. Chapter 6. Inventory as a compass, not a prediction. The common beginner believes trading is mainly about predicting direction. Will the price go up or down? Will the stock rise after earnings? Will the currency strengthen after a central bank speech? Inventory-based thinking begins elsewhere. It asks, what do I hold? How dangerous is it? And how can I make the market help me reduce or monetize that danger? This is a different kind of intelligence. A directional trader looks at the horizon. An inventory trader looks at the weight in his hands. If the inventory is balanced, he can quote more confidently. If the inventory is too large, every new trade changes from opportunity into threat. The strategy becomes less like prophecy and more like navigation. The inventory position acts like a compass because it tells the trader how to bend his quotes. A market maker who is long inventory wants to sell more and buy less. A market maker who is short inventory wants to buy more and sell less. This does not require mystical prediction. It requires discipline, measurement, and the humility to admit that survival matters more than being right. In daily life, the same logic appears everywhere. A cafe with too many croissants near closing time lowers the price or offers a bundle. A hotel with too many empty rooms discounts the night. A concert venue with few seats left raises prices because scarcity now belongs to the seller. Inventory is not just finance. Inventory is the invisible mood of every marketplace. Chapter 7. Ho and Stoll. Mathematics enters the dealer's booth. In 1981, Thomas Ho and Hans Stoll gave one of the classic formal treatments of dealer behavior under transaction and return uncertainty. Their model imagined a dealer facing random order arrivals and risky asset returns, then choosing bid and ask prices to maximize expected utility. The old merchant's anxiety had entered the temple of stochastic control. The bazaar had found its equations. The beauty of the host Stoll idea is that it treats the dealer as a living balance sheet. He is not only earning the spread, he is managing inventory risk, price risk, and the uncertainty of future customer orders. A buy order is not merely a buy order. It changes the dealer's state. It changes what the dealer should want next. This was a decisive conceptual move. Prices were no longer only reflections of fundamental value or public information. They also reflected the private burden of the intermediary. A dealer with a large long position might quote differently from a dealer with a flat book, even if both observe the same public price. The market is therefore not only a mirror of information, it is also a map of who is overloaded. In romantic terms, Ho and Stoll show that every dealer carries a weather system inside his inventory. The public sees bid and ask. The dealer feels wind, pressure, and temperature. A good inventory-based strategy learns to translate internal weather into external prices before the storm becomes visible to everyone else. Chapter 8. The Reservation Price, the secret center of the dealer's mind. One of the most important ideas in modern inventory-based market making is the reservation price. It is not simply the market price. It is the price at which the dealer is personally indifferent given his current inventory and risk. Two traders can look at the same mid-price and feel different truths because one is overloaded and the other is balanced. If a market maker owns too much of an asset, his reservation price may move lower. He becomes more eager to sell, less eager to buy, and his quotes shift accordingly. If he is short, the opposite happens. He wants to buy back inventory and reduce exposure. The public sees tiny quote changes. Behind them is a private negotiation between inventory and fear. This is where the strategy becomes psychologically rich. The reservation price is like the hidden center of gravity in a dancer's body. It decides which movement feels natural and which movement feels dangerous. A balanced trader can move gracefully. An overloaded trader is pulled by invisible weight. In ordinary life, reservation prices appear whenever ownership changes desire. The person who already has 5 winter coats values the 6th coat differently from someone freezing outside. A store with too many unsold phones feels the market differently from a customer comparing models. Inventory reshapes desire, and inventory-based strategies turn that reshaped desire into quoted prices. Chapter 9. Nasdaq and the City of Screens. In 1971, Nasdaq began operations and brought a new electronic character to American markets. It was not the old floor with a single specialist at a post. It was a dealer market, a city of screens, with multiple market makers posting quotes and competing for order flow. The market's voice became less human in appearance, but its inventory problems did not disappear. The Nasdaq world changed the stage. Instead of one visible figure in a trading crowd, there were many dealers dispersed through terminals, firms, and communication networks. Each dealer still faced the old question: if customers keep selling to me, how much can I hold? If customers keep buying from me, when do I run out? Electronic markets accelerated the question, but they did not abolish it. The competition among market makers could narrow spreads and increase transparency, but it also created new pressure. A dealer who quoted too conservatively might lose business. A dealer who quoted too aggressively might win trades that loaded him with bad inventory. The market became a tournament of balance, where being too brave could be as dangerous as being too timid. This is one of the great ironies of modernization. Screens made markets look cleaner, faster, and more rational. Yet behind the screens, the ancient merchant still lived. He had changed clothes. He had become a broker-dealer, an algorithm, a firm with risk limits, but he was still asking how much inventory he could survive. Chapter 10. The Limit Order Book, a Cathedral Made of Intentions. A limit order book is a cathedral made of intentions. On one side are buyers arranged by price and time. On the other side are sellers, also waiting in line. Each order is a small declaration. I will buy here, I will sell there, I will wait, I will not wait, I will disappear if the world changes. For inventory-based strategies, the order book is both map and battlefield. The trader must know where liquidity is resting, where it is thin, and where a small push could move the price. A market maker placing limit orders is not simply waiting politely. He is choosing where to expose himself to being hit. Every displayed quote is an invitation with a trapdoor underneath. The rise of electronic limit order books changed the romance of market making. The drama moved from jackets and shouting to latency, queue position, cancellation rates, and execution probability. Yet the old themes remained: imbalance, fear, inventory, and the constant search for the price that attracts the right trade without inviting disaster. The book also teaches a moral lesson about markets. Liquidity looks solid until everyone needs it at once. A deep book can become shallow if participants cancel orders or widen quotes. The cathedral of intentions can empty quickly when the crowd smells smoke. Inventory-based strategies must therefore respect not only what is visible, but how fast the visible can vanish. Chapter 11. Avellaneda and Stoikov, the poetry of high-frequency control. In the late 2000s, Marco Avellaneda and Sasha Stoikov helped define a famous modern framework for high-frequency market making in a limit order book. Their model combined inventory risk, price dynamics, order arrival intensity, and optimal quotes. The trader became a small electronic creature, placing bid and ask orders around a reference price while trying not to accumulate a dangerous position. The model is elegant because it gives mathematical form to something deeply human. A market maker wants spread income, but spread income comes from being executed, and being executed changes inventory. If too many people sell to the market maker, the book fills with unwanted long exposure. If too many people buy from him, he becomes short and exposed in the other direction. Profit and danger arrive through the same door. This is the tragedy and beauty of market making. The best quote is not always the quote closest to the market. A quote can be attractive to customers and destructive to the dealer. A quote can generate volume and ruin the inventory. The strategy must constantly answer: do I want to trade more or do I want to survive more? Avellaneda Stoikov became influential because it translated inventory anxiety into formulas that algorithms could use. It helped turn the market maker into a machine with preferences, risk aversion, and a finite horizon. But even in its mathematics, the story remains ancient. The machine is still a merchant at sunset, looking at the shelves and deciding what must be sold before night arrives. Chapter 12. The small comedy of being picked off. Every market maker fears being picked off. This happens when someone trades against an old or vulnerable quote because they know or suspect that the fair price has moved. The market maker thought he was selling apples at a fair price, but the customer knew the orchard had just burned down. The trade looks ordinary on the screen, but inside it is a little ambush. There is comedy in this because the market maker wants customers, yet fears the smartest customers most. He wants order flow, but not toxic order flow. He wants trades, but not trades that arrive with bad news hidden in their pockets. The dream is to meet impatient traders, not informed assassins. Inventory-based strategies therefore intersect with adverse selection. If a market maker is repeatedly hit on one side, he must ask whether the market is simply imbalanced or whether someone knows something. A wave of buying might be harmless demand, or it might be the first footstep of information spreading through the market. Inventory tells him he is exposed. Order flow tells him whether the exposure may be poisonous. In everyday life, this is like selling a used car just before learning that its model has become collectible. The buyer smiles too quickly, and only later does the seller understand why. Markets compress this awkward human experience into milliseconds. The inventory strategy must decide whether the smile is harmless or dangerous before the next quote goes live. Chapter 13. Crisis, when liquidity becomes a rumor. In calm times, liquidity feels like a public utility. Investors assume they can buy or sell because screens are full of prices. But during crisis, liquidity can become a rumor, something people remember having seen shortly before it disappeared. Market makers widen spreads, reduce size, or step away because their inventory limits are not heroic myths. They are real walls. The 2010 flash crash showed this fragility with brutal clarity. As prices fell rapidly and volume surged, many liquidity providers widened quotes, reduced liquidity, or withdrew from the market. The event became a modern parable about speed, fragmentation, algorithms, and the vanishing nature of displayed liquidity. It was not only a price event, it was a confidence event. Inventory-based strategies sit at the heart of this drama. A market maker can provide liquidity only while the risk remains tolerable. When prices move too fast, the inventory acquired by helping the market can become lethal. The same strategy that stabilizes trading in normal conditions may retreat in abnormal conditions because the dealer's first obligation is survival. This is the harsh truth behind the romance. The market maker is often described as a provider of liquidity, almost like a public servant. But he is not a charity. He carries capital, risk limits, technology, and fear. When the storm becomes too violent, the bridge keeper may close the bridge. Chapter 14, Knight Capital, the algorithm that woke up wrong on August 1, 2012. Knight Capital suffered one of the most famous technology disasters in modern market history. A software deployment problem led to a flood of unintended orders across many stocks. In less than an hour, a major market-making firm was pushed toward ruin by its own machinery. It was a story that felt almost mythic. The servant had become the monster. Knight Capital was not a small amateur shop playing with toys. It was a serious firm deeply involved in U.S. equity trading. That is what made the event so chilling. The catastrophe did not come from a romantic rogue trader in a smoke-filled room. It came from code, deployment, controls, and speed. The modern market had created a weapon that could wound its owner before anyone fully understood the wound. Inventory-based strategy depends on controlled exposure. The market maker expects to accumulate and reduce inventory according to rules. But when technology breaks, inventory can appear like a flood through a broken dam. Positions can become enormous, irrational, and impossible to manage manually. The trader no longer steers inventory. Inventory drags the firm behind it. The lesson is severe and useful. In modern markets, risk management is not decoration. Kill switches, deployment discipline, testing, monitoring, capital limits, and operational humility are part of the strategy itself. A beautiful pricing model without operational control is a palace built over a trapdoor. Chapter 15, Bonds, Currencies, and the Dealer's Older Kingdoms. Inventory-based strategies are not only equity stories. They live in bonds, currencies, commodities, options, and derivatives. In many over-the-counter markets, the dealer's role is even more central because trading does not always occur in one transparent public book. Customers ask for prices, dealers respond, and inventory moves through relationships as much as through screens. A bond dealer, for example, may buy corporate bonds from a client without knowing immediately who will buy them next. Unlike a highly liquid stock, some bonds may not trade constantly. The dealer must price not only credit risk and interest rate risk, but also the difficulty of finding the next buyer. Inventory becomes a quiet room where risk can sit for days, weeks, or longer. In foreign exchange, the inventory rhythm can be faster and more global. Banks, electronic platforms, hedge funds, corporations, and central bank expectations all create flows. A dealer may see demand for one currency rising through customer activity before the wider market fully reacts. But again, the question is not only what the dealer believes, it is what the dealer can safely hold. This is why inventory-based thinking is so powerful. It is a general language for intermediaries. Wherever someone quotes a two-sided price and absorbs temporary imbalance, the old drama returns. The asset changes costume, but the merchant remains the same. Chapter 16, The Present, Citadels of Speed and the New Market Makers. Today, market making is often associated with firms such as Citadel Securities, Virtue, Jane Street, Optiver, Susquehanna, and other electronic liquidity providers. Their world is faster, more quantitative, and more technological than the old trading floor. The jackets are gone, but the inventory problem has not died. It has simply moved into data centers. These firms use models, risk engines, market data, execution systems, and enormous operational infrastructure. Their quotes may update faster than human perception. Yet the basic inventory logic remains recognizable to a medieval merchant. Too much exposure on one side changes the desired price. Risk limits constrain bravery. Liquidity provision is profitable only when the firm survives the inventory it absorbs. There is a curious beauty in this continuity. A server in New Jersey, a trader in London, a quant in Amsterdam, and a risk manager in Singapore may all be participating in the same ancient discipline. They are measuring the weight of what they hold and deciding how the next quote should invite relief. The market appears digital, but the logic is older than electricity. This also connects inventory-based strategies to the present investor's life. Every time a person clicks buy or sell and receives immediate execution, someone or something helped create that immediacy. A market maker may have taken the other side directly, or liquidity may have come from a resting order. Behind the smoothness of the app is a hidden economy of inventory, spread, and risk. Chapter 17, The Human Lesson. Do not let your position become your identity. Inventory-based strategies teach a lesson beyond market making. They show that holding too much of anything changes judgment. A trader overloaded with one asset starts to see the world through that asset's needs. He reads news differently, fears volatility differently, and welcomes order flow differently. The position becomes a lens. This is dangerous because the market does not care about the trader's need for relief. A bad inventory can seduce the trader into hoping instead of adjusting. He may refuse to sell because selling admits pain. He may double down because the balance sheet whispers that one more trade will repair the story. Many disasters begin when inventory stops being a variable and becomes pride. The disciplined inventory trader does the opposite. He treats position as information. If the book is too long, he listens. If the book is too short, he listens. If liquidity is vanishing, he does not demand that the market respect his plan. He changes the plan before the inventory writes the ending for him. This is why the strategy has philosophical power. It says that risk is not only out there in the market, risk is also inside what you already hold. The future may be uncertain, but the inventory is present, visible, and honest. A wise trader begins there. Chapter 18, Finale, The Warehouse at the Edge of the Storm. Inventory-based strategies are the poetry of controlled imbalance. They do not promise that the trader will know the future. They promise a method for standing between buyers and sellers without being destroyed by the pressure of standing there. They are strategies of adjustment, not arrogance. They respect the fact that every act of liquidity has a cost. The story began with merchants, warehouses, ships, and old markets. It passed through Wall Street agreements, exchange floors, specialists, Nasdaq screens, academic models, high-frequency algorithms, flash crashes, and software disasters. Across all of it, one image remains, a person or machine holding inventory while the crowd changes its mind. That is the central drama. In a romantic sense, the market maker is the keeper of a dangerous bridge. He charges a toll, but the toll is not pure profit. It compensates him for standing where others do not want to stand, for holding what others want to release, and for offering immediacy when time itself has become expensive. Sometimes the bridge is calm, sometimes it shakes. The final lesson is simple and severe. In markets, what you hold begins to hold you. Inventory-based strategy is the art of noticing that moment early enough to act. It is the old merchant's wisdom reborn in mathematics, code, and light-speed markets. Keep the shelves alive, respect the storm, and never let the warehouse become your grave.